The dust hadn't settled on Skidoo, California, since the silver mines opened 3 years prior, and August James figured it never would as he rode into town with exactly 17 cents in his pocket, and a stomach that had forgotten what food tasted like 2 days ago. The year was 1909, and the mining boom had transformed this desert settlement into a thriving community of nearly 700 souls, all chasing the dream of wealth buried in the Panamint Range. August had been one of them once, before a cave-in took his claim, his partner, and nearly his life. Now, he was just another drifter trying to figure out his next move, though it was hard to think about anything beyond the gnawing hunger that made his vision swim in the relentless May heat. He tied his horse, Copper, outside the general store, knowing the 17 cents would barely buy enough oats to keep the animal going another day. A man could go hungry, but a cowboy without a horse was as good as dead in this country. The decision made itself. As August walked down the dirt road that served as Skidoo's main street, the smell hit him like a physical thing. Fresh bread. The scent was so rich, so utterly perfect, that he stopped in his tracks and actually felt his knees weaken. He followed his nose like a man in a trance, turning the corner to find a small bakery he had not noticed on his previous rides through town. The building was modest, whitewashed wood with a hand-painted sign that read Calloway's Bakery in neat blue letters. Through the window, he could see loaves of bread cooling on racks, their golden crust still steaming. His stomach twisted so violently he had to grip the door frame. For a long moment, August just stood there, pride warring with desperation. He was 24 years old, had been working since he was 12, and the thought of begging stuck in his throat like a stone. But the smell of that bread would not let him go. The bell above the door chimed as he pushed inside, and the woman behind the counter looked up from where she was kneading dough. August forgot about hunger for a moment, forgot about everything except the way the afternoon sunlight streaming through the window caught the copper highlights in her dark brown hair. She was younger than he expected, probably around his own age, with flour dusted across her cheek and the most striking green eyes he had ever seen. "Help you?" Willow Calloway asked, wiping her hands on her apron. She had learned to read men quickly in the 3 months since she had opened the bakery. This one was hungry. Not just skipped breakfast hungry, but the kind of gaunt hollowness that came from days without proper food. She could see it in the way he held himself, in the desperate way his eyes had fixed on the bread. August removed his hat, running a hand through his dark hair. "I was wondering if you might be hiring. I am good with my hands, can do repairs, chop wood, whatever you might need." Willow studied him for a moment. She had heard every line from every drifter who came through Skidoo, but something about this man seemed different. Maybe it was the way he met her eyes directly, or the fact that he had not immediately asked for handouts. There was pride in the set of his shoulders despite his obvious circumstances. "I do the repairs myself," she said, watching his face fall, "and I have wood delivered." August nodded, putting his hat back on. "I understand. Thank you for your time, madam." He was almost to the door when Willow surprised herself by calling out, "Wait." He turned back, hope and caution mixing in his expression. "When did you last eat?" The question hung in the air between them. August could have lied, but something about this woman made him want to tell the truth. 2 days ago, had some jerky that morning. Willow moved to the bread rack and selected one of the larger loaves, still warm. She wrapped it in brown paper with quick, efficient movements. "That will be $4. August felt heat rise to his face. "I cannot pay that, I do not have it." "I know," Willow said, holding out the package. "That is why I am offering credit. Pay me when you can." He stared at the bread like it might bite him. "I do not take charity." "It is not charity, it is business. I am extending you credit same as I would any customer." She pushed the package across the counter. "Unless you are telling me you have no intention of paying your debts." The challenge in her voice did what sympathy could not have. August stepped forward and took the bread, his fingers brushing hers for just a moment. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through him. "I will pay you back, every cent with interest." "I will hold you to that," Willow said, and something in her smile made his heart do a strange little skip. "August James," he said, offering his hand. "Willow Calloway." Her grip was firm, her palm warm and slightly dusty with flour. "Do not make me regret this, Mr. James." "I will not, Miss Calloway. You have my word." Outside, August sat in the narrow strip of shade beside the bakery and ate half the loaf in minutes, forcing himself to save the rest despite every instinct screaming at him to devour it all. The bread was the best thing he had ever tasted, rich and slightly sweet, with a crust that shattered perfectly under his teeth. As his stomach settled and his head cleared, he made himself a promise. He would pay back Willow Calloway if it was the last thing he did. Inside the bakery, Willow found herself glancing at the window more than usual, catching glimpses of the cowboy as he ate. She had no idea why she had done that. $4 was not nothing to her. The bakery was doing well enough, but she was still building her business, still trying to prove she could make it on her own in a town that had not exactly welcomed a single woman trying to run a business. Her father had died in a mining accident 6 months ago, leaving her alone in the world at 23 years old. The bakery had been his dream, something he had been planning to open once he struck silver. When the accident happened, Willow had taken the small amount he had saved and opened it herself, determined to build something lasting, something that did not depend on the whims of the earth and the luck of a pickaxe. She had not expected to feel so alone. She had not expected to miss the simple act of conversation, of connection. Maybe that was why she had given the bread to August James. Maybe she just wanted to believe that people could still be decent, that trust was not a foolish thing. The next morning, August was at the bakery door before dawn. Willow, who had been up since 4 starting her baking, nearly dropped her mixing bowl when she saw his silhouette through the window. "We are not open yet," she called through the door. "I am not here as a customer," August replied. "I am here to work." Willow wiped her hands and opened the door, finding August with an armload of firewood. "What is this?" "Payment," he said simply. "I chopped it this morning, figured you would need it for your ovens. I told you I have wood delivered. Now you have it delivered and chopped for free. That ought to be worth something off my debt." Willow could not help but smile. "The wood shed is around back." August made 3 more trips, stacking the wood with neat precision. When he was done, Willow handed him a cup of coffee and a sweet roll fresh from the oven. "This does not count against your debt," she said firmly when he started to protest. "You cannot work on an empty stomach." They sat on the back step as the sun crept over the Panamint Mountains, painting the desert in shades of gold and pink. August nursed the coffee, the best thing he had tasted besides yesterday's bread, and tried not to stare at the way the morning light caught in Willow's hair. "Why Skidoo?" he asked. "If you do not mind me asking, it is not exactly the easiest place for a woman alone." Willow was quiet for a moment, watching the sunrise. "My father is buried here. This was his dream, opening a bakery. I am living it for him." She glanced at August. "Why did you come to Skidoo, Silver? Same as everyone else. Had a claim with my partner up on Tucky Mountain." "There was a cave in last month." His voice went flat. He did not make it out. "I am sorry," Willow said, and she meant it. She knew that pain, the sudden absence of someone who had been there your whole life. "Were you too close?" "He was my brother, Jacob, older by 3 years." Willow reached out without thinking and touched his hand briefly. "I lost my father in a mining accident. I know how it feels, that emptiness." August looked at her hand on his, then met her eyes. Something passed between them, an understanding that went deeper than words. They were both survivors, both trying to build something from the wreckage of loss. "I should let you get to work," August said, standing. "Thank you for the coffee and the roll." "August," Willow called as he headed around the building. He turned back. "If you want to chop wood every morning, I will take 50 cents off your debt each time. Fair wage for fair work." His slow smile transformed his whole face. "That is more than fair, Miss Calloway." "Willow," she said. "If you are going to be here every morning, you might as well call me Willow." "Then you better call me August." For the next 2 weeks, August appeared before dawn every morning without fail. He chopped wood, carried flour sacks, fixed a loose board on the porch, and replaced a cracked window pane. Willow paid him in reduced debt and breakfast, and they fell into an easy rhythm that felt far more natural than either wanted to admit. August found work here and there around town, enough to keep Copper fed and to pay for a spot in the livery stable's hayloft where he slept. He did odd jobs at the saloon, helped repair a mining cart, even spent 2 back-breaking days digging a new well for the doctor. Every spare penny went into a small leather pouch he kept in his saddlebag. When he had saved $3, he brought it to Willow on a Saturday afternoon. The bakery was busy, full of miners and their families buying bread for Sunday dinner. August waited patiently in line, and when his turn came, he placed the 3 silver dollars on the counter with quiet pride. "Toward my debt," he said. Willow picked up the coins, knowing what they represented. She had watched him work himself half to death the past 2 weeks, taking any job anyone would offer. "August, you have already worked off more than this in labor. A debt is a debt. I said I would pay with interest, and I meant it. Then I will mark it in the ledger. You now owe me exactly 67 cents. August grinned. "I will have that for you by Monday. I have no doubt you will." That evening, after the last customer left and Willow was cleaning up, there was a knock at the door. She found August standing there, hat in his hands, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "I was wondering," he started, then stopped. "That is, if you are not busy tomorrow, it being Sunday and all, I thought maybe you might like to take a ride out to see the wildflowers. They are blooming up in the canyon, and I heard you tell Mrs. Henderson you have not had a day off since you opened." Willow felt her heart speed up. "Are you asking me to spend time with you socially, August James?" He met her eyes. "Yes, madam, I suppose I am." She should say no. She barely knew him. A cowboy drifter who had walked into her shop with nothing to his name. But when she looked at August, she did not see a drifter. She saw a man who had kept his word, who worked hard, who treated her with respect and kindness. She saw someone who understood loss, who was trying to build something from nothing just like she was. "What time?" she asked. August's face lit up. "After church, around 1. I will be ready." That night, Willow tried on 3 different dresses before settling on her green one that matched her eyes. She told herself she was being ridiculous, that this was just a friendly ride, nothing more. But her heart was not listening to reason. August spent his own evening using most of his remaining money to pay for a hot bath at the barber shop and to have his one good shirt laundered. He trimmed his beard himself with a borrowed razor and polished his boots until they shined. When he looked in the cracked mirror above the livery's wash basin, he barely recognized himself. Sunday dawned clear and hot, the kind of perfect California desert day that made you forget the brutal summers and harsh winters. August borrowed a gentle mare from the livery owner in exchange for mucking out stalls for a week, and arrived at Willow's small cabin behind the bakery at precisely 1 o'clock. Willow opened the door. and August forgot how to breathe. She was beautiful, her hair loose around her shoulders instead of pinned up, the green dress bringing out the color of her eyes. She had a small basket over one arm. "I brought lunch," she said. "Hope you do not mind." "Mind, that is about the best news I have heard all week." He helped her mount the mare, trying not to notice the way her hand felt in his or the slight blush on her cheeks. He swung up onto Copper, and they headed out of town toward the canyon. The desert was alive with wildflowers, great sweeps of purple and gold spreading across the landscape like someone had spilled paint across the earth. Willow had never seen anything so beautiful. They rode slowly, talking easily about everything and nothing. August told her about growing up in Nevada, about learning to rope cattle from his father, about his mother's death when he was 15. Willow shared stories about her childhood in San Francisco, about how different Skidoo was from the city, about her father's endless optimism even in the hardest times. They found shade beneath a Joshua tree and spread out the blanket Willow had brought. She unpacked cold chicken, fresh rolls, cheese, and a jar of lemonade. August ate slowly, savoring every bite, still not quite used to having regular meals again. "Can I ask you something?" Willow said, leaning back on her hands and looking out at the flowers. "Anything. What will you do now?" "Now that your claim is gone." August was quiet for a long time. "I have been thinking about that. Mining is not for me, I think. Jacob loved it, the possibility of every swing of the pickaxe, but I am a cowboy at heart. I grew up on a ranch. I miss it, the cattle, the open range. The mining was Jacob's dream, and I followed him because he was my brother. But now," he trailed off, "now you want to follow your own dream," Willow finished. "Something like that. There are ranches down in the valley always looking for good hands. I have been thinking I might head down there, see about steady work." He looked at her. "But I find myself reluctant to leave Skidoo." "Because of your debt?" Willow asked, though her heart was hoping for a different answer. "No," August said quietly, "because of the baker I owe it to." The air between them seemed to thicken. Willow turned to look at him and found his brown eyes already on her, warm and honest and full of something that made her breath catch. "August," she started, but he reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I know I have no right," he said. "I am a man with nothing to offer, no prospects, no money. But Willow, these past few weeks, getting to know you, watching you run your business with such determination and grace, seeing your kindness and strength, I cannot help but feel something. And I think maybe you might feel it too." Willow's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "I do," she whispered. "Feel something, I mean. But August, I cannot just follow my heart without thinking. I have worked so hard to build the bakery, to make a life for myself. I cannot risk that for a man I have known for 3 weeks." "I am not asking you to risk anything," August said. "I am just asking you to let me stay in Skidoo. Let me find work, prove myself, show you that I am worth taking a chance on. I will court you proper if you will let me. Slowly. We can take all the time you need." Willow looked at his honest face, at the hope and vulnerability in his eyes, and felt something inside her shift and settle. "All right," she said. "Yes, you can court me, but August, I need you to understand something. I am not some delicate flower who needs saving. I can take care of myself. If we do this, it is as equals." August grinned. "I would not want it any other way. You are about the strongest person I have ever met, Willow Calloway. That is one of the things I admire most about you." They sat there under the Joshua tree, hands linked, watching the shadows lengthen across the wildflowers. When August finally leaned in and kissed her, soft and sweet and gentle, Willow felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. It was terrifying and wonderful and absolutely right. The ride back to Skidoo was quiet, but it was the comfortable quiet of two people who had found something unexpected and precious. When they reached Willow's cabin, August helped her down from the mare, his hands lingering on her waist just a moment longer than necessary. "Thank you for today," Willow said. "It was perfect." "The first of many, I hope," August replied. "If you will have me." "I will have you," Willow said, and smiled at the way his whole face lit up. August left before full dark, not wanting to damage her reputation, but he could not stop grinning the entire ride back to the livery. The old man who owned the place took one look at him and laughed. "That is the look of a man who found something worth staying for," he said. "Yes, sir," August agreed. "I believe I have." The next morning, August was at the bakery even earlier than usual. He had a surprise for Willow, having stayed up late into the night working by lantern light. When she opened the door, he presented her with a beautifully crafted sign that read "Fresh Bread Daily" in neat, carved letters. "I noticed your old one was fading," he said. "Thought you could use a new one." Willow ran her fingers over the smooth wood, touched beyond words. "August, this is beautiful. You made this." "My father was a carpenter before he was a rancher. He taught me some. I am a bit rusty, but I think it turned out all right." "It is perfect," Willow said, standing on her toes to kiss his cheek. "Help me hang it." They put the sign up together, and several passers-by stopped to admire it. Mrs. Henderson, one of Willow's best customers, gave them a knowing smile that made Willow blush. "Word is going to spread," Willow said as they finished hanging the sign. "Let it," August replied. "I have got nothing to hide. I am courting the prettiest, smartest woman in Skidoo, and I am proud of it." Over the next few weeks, August made good on his promise. He found steady work at the Butt Ranch, a spread about 5 miles outside of town that ran cattle in the valley. The owner, a grizzled old rancher named Tom Douglas, took one look at August's riding and roping and hired him on the spot. "Good cowboys are hard to find up here," Tom said. "Everyone wants to mine, but the cattle still need working." The pay was decent, and August finally had enough money to rent a small room above the feed store. It was not much, just 4 walls and a narrow bed, but it was his. He bought himself a second shirt and a new pair of work gloves. He paid Willow the final 67 cents of his debt plus an extra $2 in interest, presenting it to her on a Saturday evening with a flourish. "We are settled up," he announced, "square and even." Willow took the money, but her eyes were sad. "Does this mean you will stop coming by in the mornings?" August laughed and pulled her into his arms right there in the bakery. "Not a chance. I am just paying my old debt so I can start a new one." "What new debt?" "The one where I buy bread from you every day like a regular customer. And maybe sometimes I buy the baker dinner, or take her riding on Sundays, or sit with her in the evening when the bakery closes." "That sounds less like a debt and more like courting," Willow said, smiling against his chest. "I suppose it does." They fell into a routine. August worked the ranch during the week, rising before dawn to ride out to the butt. The work was hard but satisfying, everything from mending fences to breaking horses to helping move the herd to new pasture. He came back to Skidoo every evening, stopping at the bakery just before closing. Sometimes Willow would save him dinner, and they would eat together in the small kitchen behind the shop. Other times they would just walk through town, talking about their days. On Sundays, they always went riding. August showed Willow the desert like she had never seen it before, taking her to hidden springs and ancient petroglyphs, teaching her the names of plants and birds. Willow taught him about baking, letting him help her sometimes in the early mornings when he arrived before his ride out to the ranch. She laughed at his clumsy attempts to knead dough, and praised him when he finally managed to shape a decent loaf. The people of Skidoo watched the courtship with interest. Some were skeptical of the cowboy who had wandered into town with nothing, but they could not deny that he worked hard and treated Willow with obvious respect and affection. Mrs. Henderson became their biggest supporter, always ready with advice or a knowing wink. Summer came to the desert in full force, brutal and unrelenting. The bakery ovens made Willow's shop almost unbearable during the day, and she started waking even earlier to do most of her baking before the worst of the heat. August worried about her, seeing the exhaustion in her face, but Willow was stubborn and proud and refused to slow down. "I am fine," she insisted when he tried to get her to rest. "The business is growing. I cannot afford to cut back now." "What good is a growing business if you work yourself to death?" They had their first real argument about it, sharp words exchanged in the heat and frustration. August left angry, and Willow spent the evening crying into her bread dough, furious with him and with herself. He came back the next morning with a fan he had bought from the general store and an apology. "I am sorry," he said. "I was not trying to tell you how to run your business. I just worry about you." Willow looked at the fan, at his genuine concern, and felt her anger melt away. "I am sorry, too. I know you are just looking out for me. I am not used to having someone care like that." "Well, get used to it," August said softly, pulling her close, "because I am not going anywhere." In August, 4 months after August first walked into her bakery, Tom Douglas offered him the position of foreman. The old foreman was retiring, moving back east to live with his daughter. It was more money, more responsibility, and it meant August would be at the ranch full-time, living in the foreman's cabin. He told Willow the news, expecting her to be happy for him, but instead she looked stricken. "That is wonderful," she said, but her voice was flat. "Really, August? You have worked so hard. You deserve this." "Willow, what is wrong?" "Nothing. I am just tired." But she would not meet his eyes, and when he tried to kiss her goodbye, she turned her head so his lips caught her cheek instead. August left confused and worried. He talked to Mrs. Henderson the next day when he came in to buy bread, figuring if anyone knew what was going on, it would be her. "You really are dense for such a smart man," Mrs. Henderson said, shaking her head. "She is scared you are going to leave her." "Leave her? Why would I leave her? I am taking the foreman job so I can build a future, so I can ask her to marry me properly." Mrs. Henderson's eyes went wide. "You are planning to propose, eventually, when the time is right. But how can I do that when I barely have 2 nickels to rub together? The foreman position means steady money, means I can start saving for a real future." I thought she would understand that. "Men," Mrs. Henderson sighed. "August, that girl has been alone most of her life. Her mother died when she was young, she lost her father not a year ago, and now you are talking about moving out to a ranch 5 miles away. All she hears is that you are leaving, not that you are planning a future." August felt like an idiot. "I need to talk to her." "Yes, you do. And for heaven's sake, tell her what you just told me." August found Willow closing up the bakery that evening. She looked surprised to see him, almost wary. "Can we talk?" he asked. "I am very busy, August. Maybe tomorrow." "Willow, please, I need to explain something." She finally looked at him, and he could see the hurt in her eyes. "You do not need to explain. I understand. You have a good opportunity. You should take it." "You do not understand," August said, taking her hands. "Willow, I am not leaving you. I am building a future for us." "Us?" "Yes, us. I know we have only been courting for 4 months, and I know you said you wanted to take things slow, but Willow, I am in love with you. I have been in love with you since you handed me that loaf of bread and told me it was business, not charity. I took this job because it means real money, steady work, and a place to live. It means I can start saving for a ring, for a house, for a life. I am not going anywhere except forward, and I want you to come with me." Willow stared at him, tears suddenly streaming down her face. You love me. Of course I love you. How could I not? You are strong and kind and smart and beautiful, and you took a chance on a broke cowboy when you had every reason not to. You are everything I never knew I was looking for. He wiped her tears with his thumbs, cradling her face in his hands. I love you, Willow Calloway. And if you will have me, if you will wait for me to do this right, I promise you I will spend the rest of my life proving it. Willow laughed through her tears, throwing her arms around his neck. I love you too, you impossible man, and I am sorry I doubted you. I was just scared. Do not be scared, August murmured into her hair. I am not going anywhere without you. They stood there in the doorway of the bakery as the sun set over the Panamint Mountains, holding each other close. August had never felt more certain of anything in his life. This woman, this place, this future they were building together, it was everything. August moved into the foreman's cabin at the Butt Ranch the following week. It was a solid little house, 2 rooms with a good stove and a decent bed. He threw himself into his new role with determination, earning the respect of the ranch hands and Tom's trust. The work was demanding, but he loved it. This was what he had been born to do, working cattle and horses, living close to the land. He rode into Skidoo every Sunday to take Willow riding, and one Sunday a month he came in on Saturday evening and stayed at the boarding house so they could spend the whole weekend together. It was not perfect, but it worked. Their love deepened, moving from the first flush of romance into something more solid and enduring. As autumn arrived, bringing cooler temperatures and clearer skies, August started saving every extra penny he could. He had a goal now, a plan. He wanted to buy Willow the kind of ring she deserved, and he wanted to propose right with everything proper. In October, 6 months after they had started courting, Tom called August into his office at the ranch house. You have been doing good work, Tom said without preamble. Better than good. The men respect you, the cattle are thriving, and I have not had to worry about a thing since you took over as foreman. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I am getting old, August. My children have no interest in ranching. They are city folk now, living in Los Angeles and San Francisco. I have been thinking about what happens to this place when I am gone. Tom leaned back in his chair. How would you feel about buying into the ranch? I would keep majority share for now, but you could own 20%. It would be a partnership, with the understanding that when I retire or die, you would have first option to buy me out completely. August felt the air leave his lungs. Sir, I do not know what to say. That is incredibly generous, but I do not have that kind of money. I know what you have and do not have. I am not asking for cash up front. We would work out terms, take it from your share of the profits over time. Think of it as an investment in both our futures. August's mind was racing. Part ownership in a successful ranch was beyond anything he had dreamed of when he rode into Skidoo broke and hungry. Can I have some time to think about it, and to talk to someone? Tom smiled knowingly. That baker of yours, smart man, always discuss the big decisions with your woman. Take a week, think it over, talk to Willow. Let me know. August rode into Skidoo that very evening, not even waiting for Sunday. He found Willow preparing dough for the next day's baking and burst through the door with barely contained excitement. August, what is wrong? What happened? Willow asked, alarmed by his sudden appearance. Nothing is wrong. Everything is right. Willow, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen all the way through before you say anything. She wiped her hands on her apron, giving him her full attention. August told her everything Tom had said about the partnership offer, about what it could mean for their future. But I am not going to accept unless you think it is the right move, he finished. This is not just about me anymore. It is about us, about what we are building together. Willow was quiet for a long moment, her mind working through the implications. How would this affect us? If you are part owner, will you have even less time to come to town? Actually, it might mean more time. As part owner, I would have more say in how things run. I could hire an assistant, delegate more. And Willow, it would mean security. Real security. The kind that comes with owning something, building equity, having a future that is not dependent on someone else's whims. Then I think you should accept, Willow said firmly. August, this is an amazing opportunity. Tom is basically offering to hand you a ranch. How could you say no? August pulled her into his arms. I could say no if you asked me to. I could walk away from all of it if that is what you wanted. You are more important to me than any ranch. That is why I am not asking you to, Willow said, kissing him softly. Because you are the kind of man who would do it, which is exactly why you should take the opportunity. You have worked so hard, August. You deserve this. We deserve this, August corrected. Everything I do, everything I am building, it is for us. He accepted Tom's offer the next day, and they shook on it in the way of honest men, with papers to be drawn up by the lawyer in Independence. August felt like he was walking on air. Everything was falling into place in a way he had never expected. November came, and with it cooler weather and the approach of the holidays. Willow was busier than ever, baking extra bread and pastries for Thanksgiving orders. August helped when he could, though his own work at the ranch was demanding with the need to move cattle to winter pasture. He had been saving for 6 months now, carefully putting aside every spare dollar. He kept the money in a small wooden box under his bed, counting it obsessively. By the middle of November, he finally had enough. He rode to Independence on his day off and walked into the only jewelry store in town. The owner, a tired-looking man named Mr. Porter, listened to what August wanted and what he could spend. He disappeared into the back and emerged with a small velvet box. This came in last month, part of an estate sale, Mr. Porter said, opening the box to reveal a delicate gold band set with a small but perfect diamond. It is not the biggest stone, but it is good quality, and the setting is sturdy. The band has an engraving inside, see, but we could size it and add a new engraving if you wanted. August looked at the ring and knew immediately it was perfect. The diamond caught the light, throwing tiny rainbows across the counter. The gold was slightly worn, which somehow made it more beautiful, like it carried the love of the people who had worn it before. How much? Mr. Porter named a price that was exactly what August had saved. Not a penny more, not a penny less. It felt like fate. I will take it, August said. And yes, I want it sized and engraved. He gave Mr. Porter Willow's size, which he had sneakily measured using a piece of string and one of her rings he had borrowed. For the engraving, he thought hard, finally settling on. With interest always. AJ. It was perfect. A reminder of where they had started, of the debt that had brought them together, and a promise that he would always give her more than she asked for. The ring would be ready in 2 weeks, right before Thanksgiving. August planned to propose on Thanksgiving Day. He wanted to do it right, with a proper dinner and everything perfect. He talked to Mrs. Henderson, who was so excited she nearly cried, and enlisted her help in planning. But as they say in the territories, man plans and God laughs. 3 days before Thanksgiving, August was working with a particularly stubborn horse when one of the ranch hands came running up, out of breath and frantic. "Fire!" he yelled. "Fire in Skidoo, the bakery!" August did not remember dropping the rope or mounting Copper. He did not remember the 5-mile ride into town, though he must have pushed the horse dangerously hard because Copper was lathered and heaving when they arrived. All he knew was the sight of smoke rising over Skidoo, black and thick, and the cold terror that gripped his heart. The bakery was engulfed. Flames poured from the windows and the roof was beginning to collapse. Half the town was in the street with buckets trying to douse the flames, but it was clearly too late to save the building. Willow. August was off copper and running before the horse had fully stopped. "Where is Willow?" She got out. Someone yelled. "She is over there." August spun and saw her, sitting on the ground in front of the general store, Mrs. Henderson's arms around her. Her face was smudged with soot, her dress was singed, and she was shaking violently, but she was alive. August crossed the distance in seconds and dropped to his knees, pulling her into his arms. "I am here," he murmured into her hair. "I am here. You are all right. You are safe." Willow clung to him, unable to speak, just shaking and crying. August held her, watching over her shoulder as everything she had built burned to the ground. The sign he had made for her crashed into the street, the carved letters blackening in the heat. It took hours to put the fire out completely. The bakery was a total loss, nothing but a smoking ruin. Willow's cabin behind it had caught as well, though the men had managed to save part of it. Most of her possessions were gone, destroyed by fire or water or smoke. As the sun set, August took Willow to the boarding house where he had rented her a room, using the last of his ready cash. She sat on the bed, staring at nothing, still not speaking. August knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "Willow, talk to me, please." "It is all gone," she finally whispered. "Everything. The bakery, the equipment, my clothes, my father's watch, his Bible, everything. I have nothing left." "You have me," August said fiercely. "You have me, and I am not going anywhere. The insurance will not cover everything. I will have to borrow to rebuild if I can even get a loan. And where will I bake in the meantime? How will I make money? August, I am ruined." "No," August said firmly. "No, you are not. We will figure this out. Together." But as the reality of the situation sank in over the next few days, even August had to admit it looked grim. The fire marshal determined that a spark from the oven had caught on some grease buildup in the chimney. It was nobody's fault, just terrible luck. The insurance Willow carried would pay out something, but nowhere near enough to rebuild and replace everything. Thanksgiving came and went in a blur. August's proposal plans were forgotten in the face of the disaster. Instead of celebrating, they spent the day going through the ruins, trying to salvage anything they could. Willow found her father's Bible, damaged but readable, and cried over it for an hour. They found some of her baking pans, warped and blackened but potentially salvageable. "I will help you rebuild," August promised. "Whatever it takes, however long it takes." "You have already done so much," Willow said tiredly. "I cannot ask you to give up everything for me." "You are not asking, I am offering." "Willow, do you remember what you told me that first day? You said we would be equals, that you did not need saving. I am not trying to save you. I am trying to stand beside you while you save yourself. Let me help. Let me be your partner." Willow looked at him, this man who had come into her life with nothing and had somehow become everything. "All right," she whispered. "All right, we will do it together." They spent December planning. August went to the bank and co-signed a loan with Willow, putting up his share of the ranch as collateral. It was a risk, a huge risk, but he did not hesitate. Tom, when he found out, matched the loan amount as an investment, saying he believed in both of them. The town rallied in ways that surprised them both. The general store owner donated some supplies. The saloon owner offered his kitchen for Willow to use in the early mornings before he opened. Families brought by extra dishes and pans. Even the miners, who had little to spare, pooled together to buy Willow a new mixing bowl. "We need our baker," Mrs. Henderson said simply when Willow tried to thank everyone. "Skidoo is not Skidoo without Calloway's bakery." By January, Willow was baking again, working in the saloon's kitchen before dawn and selling her bread from a cart on the street. It was not the same as having her own shop, but it was something. It was a start. August helped every moment he could spare from the ranch, and slowly, painfully slowly, they began to rebuild. The new bakery began to take shape in February. It was on the same lot, but August insisted on better construction, more fire safety measures. He worked alongside the builders, doing everything he could to keep costs down. They could not afford the fancier touches Willow wanted, but it would be solid and safe and hers. Through it all, their love deepened. They had been tested by fire, literally and figuratively, and had come through it together. They learned each other's strengths and weaknesses, learned how to fight fair and how to apologize, learned that love was not just the butterflies and romance, but also the choice to show up day after day, even when things were hard. The ring sat in August's drawer, waiting. He had told Mr. Porter not to finish it after the fire, to hold off on the engraving. The money he had used to pay for it was part of what he had contributed to the rebuilding fund, which somehow seemed fitting. But he had not forgotten about it. He was just waiting for the right moment when things were stable again, when he could give Willow the proposal she deserved. Spring came to the desert, and with it, the reopening of Calloway's bakery. It was smaller than before, but more efficient. The new ovens were state-of-the-art, the workspace better organized. Willow had learned from the fire and made improvements, adding a small seating area where people could sit and enjoy their bread with coffee. The grand reopening was on a warm Saturday in April, almost a year exactly from when August had first walked through the door. The whole town turned out, and by noon, Willow had sold every loaf, roll, and pastry she had made. She was exhausted and exhilarated, covered in flour and smiling wider than August had seen since before the fire. That evening, as they locked up the new bakery together, August took Willow's hand. "Take a walk with me." They walked through Skidoo as the sun set, past the general store and the saloon, past the mining office and the livery. They walked to the edge of town, where the desert opened up in endless vistas of sagebrush and stone. "You remember the first time we came out here?" August asked. "When I took you to see the wildflowers, of course. That was the day you first told me you were courting me officially. I said a lot of things that day. I said I had nothing to offer, no prospects, no money. I said I wanted to prove myself to you." "August, you have proven yourself 100 times over. You do not need to keep doing that." "I know. But Willow, I want to give you something I have been holding on to, something I bought before the fire, before everything changed." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small velvet box. Willow's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes going wide. "I bought this in November. I was going to propose on Thanksgiving, had this whole thing planned. Then the fire happened, and it never seemed like the right time. But I am done waiting for the perfect moment. I am done waiting to start our life together." He dropped to one knee in the dust, opening the box to reveal the ring. "Willow Calloway, you took a chance on a broke cowboy when you had every reason not to. You gave me bread on credit, and I promised to pay you back with interest. But the truth is, I could never repay what you gave me. You gave me hope when I had none, purpose when I was lost, and love when I needed it most. I want to spend the rest of my life paying you back with interest, giving you everything I have and everything I am. Will you marry me?" Willow was crying, tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling too. "Yes," she said. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." August slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly. She looked at the engraving and laughed through her tears. "With interest always," she read. "Oh, August. It is perfect." He stood and kissed her as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. In the distance, Skidoo glittered with lamplight, their town, their home, the place where they had found each other. They were married in June on a Sunday morning at the small church in Skidoo. Willow wore a simple white dress that Mrs. Henderson had helped her sew, and August wore his best suit that he had finally been able to afford to buy. The whole town attended, cramming into the small church until people were standing outside the windows to watch. Tom walked Willow down the aisle, having become something of a father figure to her. Mrs. Henderson cried through the entire ceremony. When the preacher said, "You may kiss your bride," August dipped Willow dramatically, making everyone laugh and cheer. The reception was held in the street outside the bakery, with tables set up and food brought by everyone. Willow had baked her own wedding cake, a towering confection that was the talk of the town. They danced to fiddle music as the sun set, surrounded by friends and neighbors who had become family. That night, August carried Willow over the threshold of the foreman's cabin, which was now their home. He had spent weeks fixing it up, adding feminine touches, making it perfect. There were curtains on the windows, a new quilt on the bed, wildflowers in a vase on the table. "Welcome home, Mrs. James," August said, setting her down gently. "Welcome home, Mr. James," Willow replied, pulling him into a kiss. Their first year of marriage was everything they had hoped for and more. Willow ran the bakery with skill and dedication, and it thrived. She hired an assistant, a young woman named Sarah who was learning the trade. August excelled at the ranch, and Tom increasingly relied on him for major decisions. The partnership they had formed deepened, with August taking on more and more responsibility. They fell into comfortable routines, but never forgot to keep courting each other. August still brought Willow flowers every Sunday. Willow still packed him special lunches with little notes tucked inside. They still took rides into the desert, still sat on their porch in the evenings talking about their days, their dreams, their future. In the spring of 1911, Willow realized she was pregnant. She waited until she was sure, then made August a special dinner, baking fresh bread in the shape of little booties. It took him an embarrassingly long time to figure out what she was telling him, but when he did, his whoop of joy could probably be heard in Independence. "We are having a baby," he kept repeating like he could not quite believe it. "Really? We are really having a baby." "We are really having a baby," Willow confirmed, laughing at his expression. August pulled her into his arms, gentle now, like she was made of glass. "I am going to be a father. Willow, I am going to be a father. You are going to be a wonderful father," she said, touching his face. "Just like you are a wonderful husband." Their daughter was born in December, right before Christmas, after a long labor that had August pacing the floor and nearly wearing a hole in the floorboards. When the doctor finally let him in to meet his child, August took one look at the tiny bundle in Willow's arms and promptly burst into tears. "She is perfect," he whispered, touching the baby's impossibly small hand. "She is absolutely perfect. We should name her Grace," Willow said. "Because she is a gift of grace. Grace Elizabeth James," August said, trying it out. "That is perfect." Being parents was harder than either of them expected, but also more rewarding. Those first few months were a blur of sleepless nights and constant worry, but also infinite moments of joy. August was a devoted father, always ready to walk Grace when she cried at night, to change diapers, to sing her silly songs. Willow watched him with their daughter and fell in love with him all over again. In the spring of 1912, Tom Douglas called August to the ranch house for a meeting. He was looking older now, moving slower, and there was a gravity to his expression that made August nervous. "I have been thinking," Tom started. "I am 73 years old. I have had a good life, a good run, but I am tired, August. I am ready to step back, spend my remaining years taking it easy." "Tom, you are not going anywhere," August protested. You are just having a rough season. Spring will perk you right up." "Let me finish," Tom said, holding up a hand. "I want to sell you the rest of the ranch. I know we had talked about it being something that happened when I died, but why should I wait? I want to see you running this place, want to know it is in good hands. We will work out terms that are fair to both of us. You can pay me over time and I will retire to San Francisco to be near my daughter. What do you say?" August sat down heavily. "Tom, I do not know what to say. That is incredibly generous, but I am not sure I can afford it, even with good terms. We are still paying off the bakery loans, and with the baby, money is tight." "Talk to Willow," Tom said. "You two always make the best decisions together." That night, August laid it all out for Willow. The opportunity was huge, but so was the risk. If they took on the ranch debt, they would be stretched incredibly thin financially. But it was also everything they had been working toward, the security and future they wanted for Grace. "What do you want to do?" Willow asked. "I want to say yes," August admitted. "This ranch, this land, it is everything I ever wanted, but I will not risk our family's security for it. We have too much to lose now." Willow was quiet for a long time, nursing Grace and thinking. Finally, she looked up. "I think we should do it. I think we should bet on ourselves, on us. We have done it before when we rebuilt the bakery. We can do it again." "It will be hard," August warned. "Really hard. We will have to scrimp and save for years." "I know. But August, think about what we would be building for Grace. A ranch, a business, a legacy. That is worth a few hard years." They did it. They bought the ranch from Tom, signing papers that made August's hands shake. Tom moved to San Francisco that summer, and August became the sole owner of what they renamed the Double J Ranch, for James and James. The next few years were as hard as August had predicted. They worked constantly, Willow running the bakery and August managing the ranch. Money was tight, and there were months when they were not sure they could make the loan payments. But they persevered, supporting each other, celebrating the small victories, and never losing sight of what they were building. Grace grew from a baby into a curious toddler, then a bright young girl. In 1914, Willow gave birth to their son, Jacob August James, named for the brother August had lost. 2 years later, their second daughter, Rose, was born. The house was full and loud and chaotic, and August and Willow would not have had it any other way. By 1918, they had paid off the ranch loan. It had taken 6 years of hard work and sacrifice, but the Double J Ranch was theirs, free and clear. They celebrated quietly on the porch one evening after the children were in bed, sitting close together and watching the stars. "We did it," Willow said, leaning her head on August's shoulder. "I still cannot believe we actually did it." "We did," August agreed. "You and me together. Just like always." "Do you ever think about that day you walked into my bakery?" Willow asked. "If someone had told me then that the broke cowboy asking for credit would become my husband, the father of my children, the owner of a successful ranch, I never would have believed it. If someone had told me that giving me bread on credit would be the best business decision you ever made, I might not have believed it either," August said with a laugh. "But here we are, Willow echoed, "and I would not change a single thing." August pulled her closer. "I love you, Willow James. Have I told you that today?" "Only about 5 times, but I never get tired of hearing it." "Good, because I plan on telling you every day for the rest of our lives." The years rolled on, bringing changes and challenges and joys. The bakery continued to thrive, and Willow eventually trained Sarah well enough that she could step back and just oversee things, spending more time at the ranch with August and the children. The Double J Ranch grew and prospered, becoming one of the most successful spreads in the valley. Grace grew into a beautiful young woman who inherited her mother's business sense and her father's love of horses. Jacob was quieter, bookish, dreaming of becoming a lawyer. Rose was the wild card, fearless and adventurous, always getting into trouble and charming her way back out of it. In 1925, Tom Douglas passed away peacefully in his sleep in San Francisco. His daughter wrote to August and Willow, saying her father had often talked about them, about how proud he was of what they had built. He left them a small legacy in his will, with a note that said, "I always knew you two would make it." By 1930, August and Willow were in their mid-40s, still working hard but also able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Grace had married a good man, a rancher from the next valley, and was expecting their first grandchild. Jacob was in law school in Los Angeles. Rose was still at home, helping run the ranch and driving her parents crazy with her antics. They still lived in the foreman's cabin, though they had expanded it over the years. It was comfortable and full of memories, every corner holding some story or reminder of the life they had built together. The bakery in Skidoo was still there, still successful, now run entirely by Sarah, who had bought into it as a partner. On a warm evening in May 1930, exactly 21 years after August had first walked into the bakery, they rode out to the desert to see the wildflowers, just like they had on their first real outing together. It had become a tradition, something they did every year on their anniversary. They spread a blanket under a Joshua tree, the same one where August had first kissed Willow all those years ago. The desert was alive with color, purple and gold stretching to the horizon. 21 years, Willow said, nestled against August's side. How is that possible? It feels like yesterday and like forever ago at the same time. Best 21 years of my life, August said. Well, 22 if you count the year we were courting. Do you ever regret it, taking a chance on a broke cowboy? August looked at her, this woman who had seen him at his lowest and loved him anyway, who had worked beside him to build everything they had, who had given him a family and a home and a purpose. Never, he said firmly. Not for one single second. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Willow James. You paid me back, you know, Willow said softly, for that loaf of bread. You paid me back with interest and a ring and a whole life together. I think we are square. August laughed and pulled her closer. Oh no, we are not square. Not even close. I am going to spend the rest of my life paying you back for what you gave me that day, and I will still be in your debt when we are old and gray. We are already getting gray, Willow pointed out, touching the silver threads in his hair. Then when we are even older and grayer, August amended. My point stands. I am going to love you and cherish you and work to make you happy every single day I have left. That is a debt I am happy to carry. Willow turned to kiss him, this man who had been her salvation as much as she had been his, who had proven time and again that love was not just about romance, but about showing up, working hard and choosing each other every single day. As the sun set over the desert, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink, they sat together under the Joshua tree, two people who had taken a chance on each other and built a life beyond their wildest dreams. The ranch spread out below them, solid and prosperous. Their children were healthy and happy. Their love had weathered storms and fires and hardships and had come through stronger. The years continued to pass, bringing more grandchildren, more successes, more quiet moments of happiness. In 1940, they celebrated their 30th anniversary with all 3 children, their spouses, and 7 grandchildren gathered at the ranch. It was loud and chaotic, with children running everywhere and multiple conversations happening at once, and August and Willow stood in the middle of it all and just soaked it in. This, August said to Willow that night as they prepared for bed, this is everything I never knew I wanted. Family, legacy, love. All because you took a chance on a hungry cowboy. You would have done the same for me, Willow said. Maybe. But you did it first. You extended grace and trust when you had no reason to. You taught me that sometimes the best investments are not about money, but about people. About seeing the potential in someone when they cannot see it themselves. As they climbed into bed, the same bed they had shared for almost 30 years, August pulled Willow close. They fit together perfectly, two pieces of a puzzle that had found their match. "I love you," he murmured into her hair. "Always have, always will." "I love you too," Willow replied, her voice heavy with sleep and contentment. "My cowboy who paid me back with interest and a ring." "And a whole life together," August added. "And a whole life together," Willow agreed. They drifted off to sleep wrapped in each other's arms, surrounded by the life they had built together, secure in the knowledge that they had found something rare and precious. They had found a love that endured, a partnership that strengthened over time, and a family that would carry on their legacy for generations to come. The story of the baker and the cowboy became something of a legend in Skidoo, told and retold over the years. Young couples would point to August and Willow as proof that love could overcome anything, that taking chances on people could pay off in ways beyond measure, that the best relationships were built on trust, respect, and the willingness to work together through whatever life threw at you. In 1950, on their 40th anniversary, August and Willow sat on the porch of the ranch house, watching the sunset. They were older now, moving slower, but their love had not dimmed. If anything, it had deepened, mellowed, become something even more beautiful with age. 40 years, Willow said, shaking her head. Where did the time go? Into 3 children, 7 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, a ranch, a bakery, and about 1,000,000 moments of happiness, August replied. He reached over and took her hand, his thumb rubbing across her wedding ring, the one he had given her all those years ago. It was worn now, the engraving barely visible, but they both knew what it said, with interest always. "I would do it all again," Willow said. "Every hard day, every struggle, every moment. I would choose you again and again and again." "Good," August said, raising her hand to his lips, "because you are stuck with me." They sat in comfortable silence as the desert turned purple in the fading light. Copper, the original Copper's grandson, who August had named in honor of his first horse, grazed peacefully in the pasture. From inside the house, they could hear Rose and her children preparing dinner, the sound of family and life in continuity. "We built something good, did not we?" Willow asked. "We built something great," August corrected. "And it all started with a loaf of bread and a woman brave enough to take a chance. And a cowboy honest enough to pay his debts," Willow added. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, August and Willow James sat together, hands linked, hearts intertwined, living proof that the greatest love stories often start with the smallest acts of kindness, and that a debt of gratitude can be repaid in infinite ways when love is the currency. Their story did not end there, of course. They lived many more years together, continuing to love and support each other, watching their family grow, tending to their ranch and bakery, always together. When August finally passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 81, Willow held his hand and whispered that he had paid her back with far more interest than she ever could have imagined. And when Willow followed him 2 years later, her children found a letter she had written, to be read at her funeral. The letter talked about the day a broke cowboy had walked into her bakery, desperate and hungry, and too proud to beg. She wrote about the instinct that had made her extend credit, about how that simple act of trust had changed both their lives forever. She wrote about love and partnership, about building a life together brick by brick, about the joy of watching their family grow. And she ended with this: "If I could go back to that day in May 1909, knowing everything that would come, all the hard times and the good times, the struggles and the triumphs, I would still hand that bread across the counter. I would still take the chance." Because August James paid me back with interest, yes, but the interest was not money. It was love and laughter and 51 years of partnership. It was 3 beautiful children and a legacy that will outlast us both. It was a life well lived together. And that is the greatest return on investment anyone could ever ask for. The letter was framed and hung in the ranch house, a reminder to future generations of where it all started. The bakery in Skidoo eventually closed as the town declined with the end of mining, but the ranch continued, passed down through the James family. Grace's grandson still runs it today, and on the wall of the office hangs a faded photograph of a young couple standing in front of a bakery, smiling at each other like they know a secret the rest of the world has not figured out yet. And maybe they did. Maybe the secret was just this: that love is not about grand gestures or perfect moments, but about showing up every day, doing the work, choosing each other over and over again. That sometimes the greatest loves start with the simplest acts of kindness. That trust and faith in another person can build something that lasts generations. August James walked into a bakery with nothing and left with everything. Willow Calloway extended credit to a stranger and got back a lifetime of love. Together, they built a legacy that proved that sometimes the best investments are made with the heart, and the returns can exceed your wildest dreams. And so the story of the baker and the cowboy lives on, a testament to the power of taking chances, keeping promises, and paying back debts with interest and a ring and a whole life of love. It is a story of the Wild West, yes, but more than that, it is a story of the wild and wonderful adventure of falling in love and building a life together, one day at a time with interest always.